Welcome. Welcome, Mr. Santhosh, and welcome, Dr. Vasanthi. So I leave the forum to Dr. Vasanthi to have the panel discussion with our guest today. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Santhosh. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dr. Vasanthi. Firstly, I wish to thank you for having me here for this leadership talk. I feel very honored. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure for us. So, before we start, a very good evening, namaste, vanakkam, and happy Pongal, and all the wishes for a very bright new year. So, let me start. How do I make one person turn their head when a leader enters the room? So, that is going to be our topic today. The leadership presence of a leader or an executive presence. So, how are you going to make a person feel felt, heard, and also seen without his mere talking? So over to you, sir. So the first, probably the first question will be, how do you make a person feel, look, and also make his presence felt? And why is it important? A leadership presence is important, first of all.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Dr. Vasanthi. And before that, I also wanted to thank you, team, for a wonderful introduction. Though I feel a bit too overwhelmed by the introduction, that video that has been made. I think leadership presence as a discipline has been existing for a long time. I think we all, whoever is a part of the management team would know about it. But I think it got transitioned over a period of time, I would think, because in the past, leadership presence was about image. It's about charisma and all the soft qualities of a leader. But I think over a period of time, maybe because of various factors, I think it has moved from that soft positions to more of a hard skill, where you be there with the team or the followers, with the stakeholders, and through your actions, the presence is felt rather than your charisma and other attributes. Of course, that's important, but I think the more of the hard skill is what I would see as a transition that has happened. In fact, I remember when we got, as part of our leadership development program, how to dress, how to talk, how to walk, how to eat, all those things are out there as part of the training. But I think over a period of time, we got more and more moved from grooming towards the real content of it. How do you make sure that you are there for a purpose and cause? So I think if I were to define the leadership presence, I would say in a line that you be there at the right time, at the right place, so that the people who are in need feels the presence. If I were to expand it a little bit, I would say that if the team is, for example, facing a crisis and they are running out of options, I think the presence of a leader to hold the fort and to be able to show that solidarity and say that the whole organization or the whole team is behind this crisis management team make a huge difference. So the presence there is very important. The right time at the right place, right? This maybe the another example would be in a sales conversation where negotiations are going on and your sales team is looking for a final call, and you as a leader be there with the sales team to take those calls at the right moment, so that the customer on the other side starts to feel the importance of timely completion or timely decision making, right? That's a major attraction for a lot of clients. How are you able to to solve your problems at the right time. So that again makes a lot of difference to your sales team, right? Or it could be, as an example, if your team member or a colleague of yours is looking forward to a career progression, and and he or she is struggling with weeding out some of the options and selecting some of the areas for movement, and sharing your experience and bringing that experience to that colleague of yours in their need makes a lot of difference to them. So I would think that these are some of the examples of leadership presence. And as you can see, most of it is about being at the right place at the right time, and less of charisma and more of action. So that would be my answer to your first question. And I think you're also talking about the second part of the first question was about why is it so important, right, in the
Yes,
current
yes,
world?
yes. Why is leadership presence important now? Very, very much now.
Yeah, I think it's not no big science here. I think world is changing. We all know, right? And in the changed world, a lot of things are changing. And one is, if I talk from a business perspective, I think the teams are getting more and more globalized, right? And there are mandates for improving the diversity of teams within the organization. So you see heterogeneous people with multiple backgrounds coming together to be a part of it. You also see the technology making physical offices more remote, right? So you can be a big team, but you don't need to meet at all, right? But still things work. And of course, the last but not the least, I think there is a generation gap. Of course, generation after generation, there is always a generation gap. With the Industrial Revolution 4.0, we feel that the generation gap is much more prominent. And therefore, what it means is that because of all this, I think it means that the reason for having role models is becoming more and more important. And in the era of social media, you get a lot of stories, you get a lot of contents, but I think the real model that the young generation perhaps would be looking for is demonstration of actions on the ground. And that, I think, is possible only through a leader, and his or her presence makes it extremely important to demonstrate those actions. So I think these are some of the factors, and that's why I believe leadership presence is much more important in this current generation or in the current era of businesses than ever before. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And now that you've spoken about why it is important, and in this era, particularly you are talking about, the heterogeneous group and technology, when so much of changes are happening, what specific behaviors or attributes do you believe, sir, would contribute most to one's leadership presence? And how can you, really inspire and motivate your team so that you are able to bring the inner self out, so that their presence is felt more and their actions?
Very good question, but very loaded also, Dr. Vasanthi, I should say. Let me try to break it down and see whether I am able to give justice to your question. From our experience in terms of characters and behaviors, I think since this is more of a knowledge sharing session, it's less of theory and more of action, right? So there are a lot of attributes that you can always find in management books about the qualities of leadership presence. But I think a few things that work for me, at least the colleagues that I worked used to say has worked for me, is one is leadership. Leaders should be accessible. I think it is very important for the leader to be accessible at all time. In fact, we used to have a policy in my previous organization that we should keep our cabins open. Okay, we will not keep it shut at all. Okay, except for such calls or important meetings. Otherwise, the cabins are open. Anybody can walk in if the cabins are open, and that's a statement that we are making. It's not just a what do you call optics. It's more of a statement that we are making. So leaders should be accessible. I think that's one thing that is very important. Second, I believe that it's also important for the leaders to be transparent, right? If you are transparent in your interactions, again, leadership presence in context to context can be different. So I'm taking a generic view of it. I think if you are transparent with your interactions with your team, with your stakeholders, I think it makes a lot of a lot of trust. It builds a lot of trust amongst the stakeholders and amongst the team. I think that is something that I felt has worked. Third one is while we are transparent, it also means that we may have to be open, we may have to give candid feedback, and we have to be candid in our responses, etc. But at the same time, while we are being candid, I think it is also important to be very sensitive to the other side. I think that again, I believe is something that gains respect and gains more accessibility to you as a leader. So the leader, if that person is more sensitive to your demand or your needs, even if there are organizational needs and pressures that are coming in, I think it makes a lot of difference, is what I felt. Lastly, but not the least, of course, the leader should demonstrate very, very high levels of integrity. If he or she were to be considered to be present in important areas. So these are 3 or 4 things I would think: accessibility, transparency, then the sensitivity to the others, and demonstrate high levels of integrity. And finally, I would also add one more thing, which would be that taking ownership. I think many a times, even though we are delegating as leaders, we may not be able to sit and do everything on our side, but we may be delegating it. But following it through to closure is something that is very important to a program, to an event, to a project, or to running an organization, because your presence is felt, right? In through that follow-up, even if it is executed by somebody else, I think your presence is felt by being a good person to follow through to a closure. It's not just about showing the presence, but also it makes sense for us to make sure that we are on time, we are sharp, we are disciplined, and we are able to deliver things as per the quality requirements of our clients. So I think these are the 5 things I would think about. What are the characteristics of leader? Now, the second part of your question, could you?
How do they inspire, sir, when they are having so much of qualities? Okay, you were talking about the behaviors and the attributes. So how, with these behaviors, how will I inculcate in my subordinates? How will I make it happen? What techniques I can use so that
Okay.
they are able to do it in their real time, work-life situations?
Okay. Inspiring, I think that's the word I caught. How do you inspire your team, or how do you make sure that your leadership presence is transferred to them?
Yes.
I think inspiration, motivation, as you can imagine, is more intrinsic. It has to come from oneself. Many times we feel that, okay, we are responsible for motivating somebody, we are responsible for inspiring somebody. I think we are responsible for triggering that motivation and triggering that inspiration, but the real motivation is actually coming from the self. Yeah. So by all means, I am of the firm belief that you cannot get motivated by others unless you are a self-motivator, right? You may get triggers and things like that, but ultimately you are a self. You should be motivated by self, right? And in that context, I think one of the important things that I feel, of course, there is no silver bullets to motivating people. Different people gets motivated through different means, right? There are extrinsic rewards, intrinsic rewards, and things like that. But most often things that has worked for me, maybe because of the kind of work that I have been involved in the past, is about showing our team about the purpose of it. Okay. I think the moment you are able to show or able to trigger the purpose of what they are doing about, I think that is a chain reaction that creates a level of motivation, and that creates a level of passion to complete it. Okay. I think there was an interesting management story that if I hope I may have some time to depict that. It goes back to a scenario. I mean, it may not be real, but it conveys a message fairly well. When the Taj Mahal has been constructed, so there was a lot of work that was going on, and the king had a habit of inspecting it by going in disguise, apparently, right? So he used to go in disguise to some of the tents where work was happening. And when one of the tent, the person shooed him away, saying that he's very busy because he has to complete that square piece of rock. He has to shape that rock into a square piece. The king was very happy because he seemed to be focused, disciplined, and he's very keen on meeting the milestones, right? He goes to the next tent, and there the person again shows up. Are busy. Almost all the tents are extremely busy, right? And the person says that, you know what, I'm creating this. I'm cutting this rock that goes into a pillar of this construction. So all others are working, and if my rock doesn't come on time, the other rocks, other blocks are there, the pillar will still not be complete, right? So therefore, it is very important for me to get to do that. So again, is very interesting, because the king gets very happy and goes back, saying that, okay, the guy understands that the fundamentals of teamwork, and he needs to work with others in collaboration and things like that. Happily, he goes to the third side, where he sees a highly motivated and passionate set of people out there, but they are all working hard enough, like the other tens. And then the king goes there and asks, and they say that, you know what, I don't know who you are, but you know what, we are building one of the most historic milestones of the world. And this rock that we are cutting today goes into a pillar, and that goes into the back end of this monument that our king is making. And therefore, we are part of making history. Okay. The king comes back. All the three are doing the more or less the same thing, cutting the rock, right? But the third team had a view of the entire picture, right? They had a purpose. So if you are able to show the purpose of the team get automatically motivated to make it complete. So how do you show the purpose? Is showing the big picture, as I try to explain in the small story. If the team is able to see the big picture, okay, this is what my work contributes to, and this big picture or the big project or the program or whatever we are doing is going to make substantial impact, or as a whole, this is the impact that is going to make. It triggers a lot of passion in driving towards that result, and that, I think, is one big thing that you can do towards motivating a team, and that is where the crux of the leadership presence. If you are able to stand in the front of the team and say that, hey, this is what we are going to do, and then even if you are not there, your presence is felt out there in the action that is going to follow. So this would be my few lines on the motivation part of it. This is what worked for us. Of course, there are many things that works for many other leaders around the world, but this is something that worked for us.
So whenever you're talking about, standing in the front, sir, I think there is an amount of confidence, and, you need to be really good in your communication skills and how you're able to, tell the correct content to them. And you're able to motivate also, as we've already spoken, and it requires a lot of clarity and, clear, precise manner, how you have to approach your subordinate. So when we are talking such, there are instances when there is a little bit of arrogance comes about. People say when you're very confident, you become a little arrogant too. So how do we bring the confident level more and bring down the negative things, of a leadership more? How are we going to approach it in a very positive manner? How a leader is not going to be very demanding or commanding, but at the same time, he's going to be very approachable. So I feel that is very important aspect of a leadership presence.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Again, a great question, and again, it depends on the situation. Sometimes leadership demands certain level of focus and sharp attention, and it goes into a command and change model. Whereas in some cases, you have enough time to be collaborative, to be democratic, and things like that. Of course, these are all various aspects of leadership situations. But I think the most important thing, few things that has worked for us is one is may look like a cliche, but it makes a lot of, or it made a lot of sense for us, is use less and less of I, the letter I, and use more and more of we. Okay, very simple, but it is very effective. You stand in front of the team and say, we are, or we have done that, or we may have to do that, or some of us will get to there and do it, rather than saying, I am doing this, you are doing that. So use less and less of I and you, and more of we and us. I think that's my first 2 cents comment to differentiate between being confident and being arrogant, right? That sets a context. And once you have set the context, then it becomes easier for you to communicate. As you rightly said, I think communication is very key, but I'm not setting it in the order of precedence, but I would say that once you have set the context, I think it's important that you should be clear on the subject that you're talking. Okay, so don't beat around the bush. Have that clarity. Again, I'm not. I think I'm borrowing the few words that you mentioned, so it is not my own words. I think the clarity comes when you are very clear of the subject. It may be, again, situation to situation. It may be a deal, it may be a crisis, or it may be a innovation or a brainstorming session. But as long as you have certain levels of knowledge about the subject that you are dealing with, I think that is very important. So once you have the subject knowledge, I think the third level, so one, you set the context, you have an awareness of the subject, that automatically brings in respect, right? So that brings to my third point. While you wanted to gain respect, I think one of the important ways of gaining respect is also by giving respect, right? Give respect and take respect. I think if you are in a team, if you are talking to people, or if you are addressing a crowd, wherever it is, I think making sure through your body language, through your words, through your interactions, making sure that you are giving respect is something that comes through very well. Now, another very small but often missed out but important tool to gain respect is to listen. I think give more time to listen. If you're able to be a good listener, I think you will be able to. It works in multiple ways, right? Because you go into a room with some knowledge of a subject, but you don't know a lot of things. And if you are able to sit there and listen to the people who are around, who are working on it, you will gain a lot of things, right? About the situation. Secondly, by listening, the other person feel important, right? Other person be a part of it. And leadership presence is also about not just being me being miles away from because I'm a leader, and the others being miles away behind me. So it doesn't work. The new generation leadership presence is all about being together, right? So that's the world we are into. So if you are to be together, then you need to listen to people, and thus you gain the level of respect for people. And by gaining the respect and by knowing the subject, I think you will be able to command the respected leadership position that you wanted to be. And as I said in the beginning itself, using more and more of I and we and us rather than I and you makes a lot of difference, is what I felt.
So now, can we go into a real-time situation, sir? Can you share a specific instance, in your work where your leadership presence had a positive impact on your team, or in a particular project, or in a particular every day we are facing so much of challenging situations, high pressure situations. So where any particular instance where your leadership presence was really felt and you were able to solve that particular problem or a challenge?
I think I'm sure as leaders and managers will come across situations like this every often. The one which comes to my mind was from the previous organization that I worked, because the new organization that I work for, Digital University of Kerala, it is I'm only 1 month into it, so I haven't come across real such situations. And to be fair, I think the leadership presence is more important when crisis happens, right, rather than things that are going good. So I would take an instance from my previous organization, which was ICT Academy of Kerala, where we were a starting up company that time, and we were a Section 25 company, and we were working towards a purpose, right, or a cause of providing the young generation their dream career option through the various skill programs that we do. So, but the scenario was that it was not just one instance. I'm talking about a situation that we were into. We were at some point in time, we got into a serious cash crunch, cash crunch, and financial situations were going really bad for us. And we, being an organization which is standing for a cause, we can't stop it, right? We can't just shut down, because we have a commitment to the state and to the market, and we had to get things going. And at the same time, finance is an important resource, right? So we didn't have much much chances of going ahead. So some point in time, I kind of nearly gave up, and I had to tell to our colleagues that, hey, you know what? Again, I made something really cliched statements, hoping that something good will happen, but ultimately it happened. So we said that, okay, imagine that you are in a ship, and unfortunately your ship has developed some holes, and it is starting to sink, right? So what we will have to do is now, as a captain of the ship, my responsibility is to make sure that you are safely on shore, right? So kindly allow me to take you to the shore, and so that you are safe and sound. But again, as a captain of the ship, unfortunately, I should be the last to go out, right? And in the process, if it sinks, yeah, so be it. So it was more like an offer for them to get out of the ship and find something better. Even though it was with a very heavy heart that we had to communicate such messages, right? So, and I was put in front of the team from the board to communicate that. But to be absolutely fair on you, I mean, it is still a very nostalgic moment for us. The whole team sitting out there said that we would prefer to stay with the captain rather, and if the ship still sinks, it so be it. So kudos to the team. I think it is more than my leadership presence, is the team's presence that has to be applauded here. That they stood like a rock with us, and in fact, it kind of motivated us rather than demotivating us. We decided to stay together, come what may be. We decided to take on anything and everything that comes our way, and was determined to sail through it. Okay, and to cut the story short, in 18 months' time, we crossed over that turmoil, and touch wood, I think since then we never faced such a situation, and we are going so far so stable in that organization. So that I think that was something which stayed back with me for a long time, and it continues to stay. When you ask for that incident, I thought maybe it aligns with the topic today.
It's bringing goosebumps actually, sir. It is, when you were saying the ship was sinking, I could imagine your situation and your psychological, you were psychologically affected, and you were in a, you wanted to help them, but you were not able to help them. I really understand a leader's
Exactly.
Position and what they undergo.
You are actually in a helpless situation.
Yeah,
but you can't tell that you are helpless,
yes.
right?
You want to be empathetic, but you are not able to be empathetic.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can put myself in your shoes, sir. I can very well know. But finally, you've come out of it, and it is a very good memory that at least, you knew what your team, and they are backing you. They are the backbone. Your team was your backbone. You felt
Exactly.
it. So that was a real good situation, I should say. And the final point may be, what steps, sir, should a person take to really make his leadership appeal very promising?
Come again with that question. Sorry, I just missed the last one.
What steps a person must take to make his leadership presence, make it very promising or appealing to his subordinates, and how he has to be more presentable, and what are the steps, or what are the criteria he has to have, or what are the future benefits he should have, and how he has to improve himself
Okay.
to
In terms of the
excel in his
steps,
leadership appeal.
sorry, come again.
To excel in his leadership appeal.
Okay. One is obviously, I mean, there are no magic bullets to it. Like many qualities of leadership, I think this also needs to come through learning, right? You get to learn as a leader. Not just as a leader, as anybody, as a professional, I would say. The day you stop, I used to hear this from one of my mentors who says that, Santhosh, the day you stop learning, you start aging, right? So I think it is important even in leadership positions that you are on a constant quest to learn something new, and learn something from your peers, and learn something from your your team, and also from other colleagues who are well wishers of yours. So I think having a good network of peers, team, your colleagues from other organizations, and creating that network towards learning and sharing is something that is going to help us, or that has helped, again, from my limited experience, that has helped me and my colleagues a lot. Learning is a constant process. You cannot stop learning, and you will never be perfectionist in any of the endeavors. I think continuous learning and leadership, again, is very situational. So any kind of situations can crop up at some other time. You might have thought that, okay, I have solved 10 problems, but you will be faced with 11th problem for sure next time. So it is always good to have a constant learning of it. The second one is about, once you learn it, you'll have to apply it, right? So it's always easy to be confined to your beautiful cabins inside your office, but I think it is important to be outside of it and be in the floor where the action is, because that's where you are needed, and that's where all your learnings that you go through would get applied. So I think only two major points. One is learning and continuous application of that learning in instances. I think that will perhaps shape you as a good leader for the future.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your valuable suggestions, and thank you for your valuable talk also, sir. I hand over the forum to Arun, please.
It was
Dr. Vasanthi,
wonderful
thank you so
talking
much.
to you, Dr. Vasanthi. Some great questions. I hope I have done justice to your questions through my limited experience, but it was great talking to you as well. Sorry, Mr. Pankaj.
Thank you. I think it was too power-packed, I should say. And
Okay.
I have loaded you too much with my questions, I should say. I wanted to hear more of it. So within a short space of time.
Thank you, sir. Santhosh, sir, thank you for sharing and valuable insights. And Dr. Vasanthi, thank you so much for taking the panel discussion in such a manner that we have been able to take out the maximum from Mr. Santhosh in the limited time. So Santhosh, sir, thank you for sharing the invaluable insights. So now, without taking much of a time, I would like to invite Ms. Uma to conduct a quiz so that we also understand that what rest of the people have taken away from the expertise shared by our guest today. So, Ms. Suma, over to you for a small quiz.
Thank you, Pankaj sir. It was a wonderful session listening to Santhosh sir and Vasanthi ma'am's discussion. It was like attending a management fest in half an hour. Fest is usually 1 or 2 days, but it is like a management fest in half an hour with so much of power-packed informations. And I have taken so many notes, but one I would like to give as a question to the audience. Is it in the
Uma, you got on mute actually.
Not able to hear you, Uma.
You can unmute yourself, Uma. Yes,
Yeah.
you can.
According to the guest, Mr. Santhosh, mention the top 5 attributes of a leader. That is the question for the day. Yeah, I think his. According to the guest, Mr. Santhosh, mention the top 5 attributes of a leader.
I think Mr. Ajish is already ready. He has typed it.
Yeah.
He was already ready with his notes.
So, Uma, can we go give it to Mr. Ajiz?
Yeah.
Actually, the point number 3 is little, I'm not convinced with it, because what he said is integrity, but he says like candidacy is sensitive to others' needs.
Okay.
Third point is open, transparent.
Open and transparent. Yeah, second point is transparent. Third is high level of integrity. Fourth is sensitivity and taking ownership.
Yeah.
Okay, since we have very limited response, we can give it to Sukumar and Ajish.
Congratulations, Mr. Sukumaran. Thank you so much. And now we given a chance to ask the question to our guest, Mr. Santhosh, and also I believe Mr. Arul will be in touch with you to give away the book written by Mr. Prakash Sharma, The Mass Leadership. So you are the winner for that. So you can you can ask a question, Mr.
Yeah. Thank you for this wonderful session. I have one question. Suppose if we are in, hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Suppose we are into a new domain and that area is new to us. In that case, how could we are asked to lead the project? In that case, how we can show our leadership presence?
I think it is a great question, Mr. Sukumar and Ajish. I think we have come across such scenarios in quite a lot of occasions where we are required to take lead from or take a new project, etc. A little bit of context to that is that's transition, right? So we are transitioning from something from somewhere. Many times transitions can be hostile because somebody else is doing that, more experienced professionals, and you are coming as new and then trying to take over. There's a lot of hostility that happens, right? And therefore one of the challenges the team faces is a little psychological in nature, right? So one of the first things that you needed to look at in such cases is to make sure that you're constantly in touch with your team, or you have a delegate or a delegated, designated member in the team to take care of the team's requirement on a constant basis. So taking care of team is very, very important. Secondly, when it comes to having new projects, the skill upgradation or training is substantially important scenario. So again, focusing on making sure that all the important or critical elements of that project or domain is taken over, is transitioned, is very, very important. Many times what happens is the least critical informations get through very quickly and the most critical information get lost, right? So it is important as leaders to make sure that you create that matrix on which is important, which is less critical, and which can wait, right? And do the takeover or learn those domains which are more critical as a first priority. That has been the scenario that we have gone through. Third one is we will be running, even if it is new domain, even if it is new project, I think there will be timelines to it, right? Sticking to the timelines is very important. And having said that, the timelines is not only measured by your agility, your capability. It is also measured by the client side or the stakeholder side. So the risks are very high, right? I think it is important as a leader to identify the risks and communicate that risk to the client side on a regular basis. And accordingly, not just communicating it, and accordingly managing the plan. Perhaps it can go up, or sometimes it may shrink also. So managing the plan and communicating that back to the customer, as well as communicating that back to the team and getting an alignment to the changes is also very important, right? So these are the few things that we have looked upon when I was a transition leader for taking up something new from our team. We were a fresh set of team, and that too it was an abroad. So we had teams who were feeling a little homesick, and in between there were also this kind of hostile behavior from the other side. So taking care of the team, because at the end of it, they are the ones who are going to deliver. I think I would put that in the order itself. First priority is to make sure that to take care of the team who is involved in it. Make sure that your artifacts and your training in terms of criticality is aligned, so that you take over critical elements as quick as possible. Making sure that the risks are identified and communicated on time are some of the things that work well for us. Make sense?
So I hope that works out, Sukumaranji. That answers, you get your answer, right?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Santhosh sir, for giving a brief and a better understanding on the same. So without taking much of time, if we have any other team member who would like to ask question, can also raise hand and ask the question. So who do we have? Arul, I believe we have Mr. Anil Goswami, sir. Anil, sir, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Excellent talk and excellent anchoring also. See, my question is, so you told about SMA, subject matter expert. as rightly said, empty vessel doesn't fill the other one. So also I liked your you told about tip about feedback. I want to understand there are two types of feedback. One is lead feedback, other is lagging feedback. So can you elaborate a little bit about this thing? So which one is better, whether lead or lagging feedback? Because most of the leaders, they use lead feedback.
Now, I think both are important according to me. I think when you're running high pressure project, I think the lead feedback makes it better because it gives you a prediction about what comes next, right? So you can traverse accordingly, you can change your course, you can manage your directions and things like that. But once you hit a milestone, the feedback, if I understand the terminology, the lead feedback is through when you are in the process, the feedback that you comes is lead feedback. And once you hit a milestone, the feedback that collect is your lag feedback, right? If I were to understand it that way, I think the important part in the lead feedback, it sets the directions and course correctly. In the milestone-based lag feedback, it gives you a comprehensive view as what has gone well and what has gone not well, so that you can actually improve upon in the next phase of your project or even the next project or in your overall business. So to me, sir, I think every feedback is good. In fact, we used to have a terminology slightly out of context of what you said. We call it as we call every feedback as positive feedback. Okay. The reason being, it may sound a little contradicting. Even if it is negative feedback, we are calling it as positive, because if a client or a stakeholder is willing to give you a feedback, that means that he or she is interested in your business and he or she is interested in making you successful. Therefore, we believe that whether it is positive or negative, we should consider it as a positive feedback and then proceed with that. So I believe that feedback is very important.
Perfect. So Anil sir, I believe you got the answer.
So no, it is a great answer. You see, so one thing I wanted to add, there is a difference between feedback and criticism that you know already. Anybody who wants to pull you up, he wants to give, that is positive feedback. And anybody who is biased toward you, that is criticism, he wants to pull you down. So we have to be very careful. And as a leader, always you will give, this feedback. And criticism, if something is there, you should try to avoid those people as far as possible. Thank you very much, because that adds up biases with you. And that is also lag feedback is not very important, because after the 1 year, if somebody gives you the feedback on your appraisal or something, that is completely full of emotions also. So whether he likes you or not. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Anil sir. So do we have any other questions? If there is any, we can have the last question.
I have a question. Sir, it was a wonderful session and it was power-packed and so much of inputs were being given in the session. And I would like to have a real-time scenario where I need your some inputs. Like usually in organizations, when someone enters a middle management or a top management as in a leadership position, generally people don't accept immediately, except for few exceptional cases. There is always resistance to change. They want to go with the old traditions and old methods of doing things. They don't want to accept people as leader. In that scenario, how to handle the situation? Because it's generally it's a tough challenge for both employees as well as the new leader. From leader's perspective, because everyone here is a leader and aspire to be a big leaders. So from leader's perspective, how to handle those resistance to change?
Having a great question, Ms. Uma. I think we come across this quite often, and I as a person, I used to shift projects and organizations and geographies and things like that. So this is quite common for a person like me. Acceptability in a team is not just for leaders. I think for everybody new, it's a problem. As a leader, I think there are two weapons, right? One is power. You can use your power and be very forceful, saying that this is how it is going to work. Doesn't matter. Just accept it. Go forward, right? And take it by the horns. But things that worked really for me is to use relationship skills. I think whether you are in the extreme senior positions or not, I think having good relationship skills, making sure that you carry the team along, sitting with them, spending time to understand their apprehensions, listening to their challenges, and more than anything, I think giving a feel that you are there to listen to them, I think it eases out a lot of pressure. So to me, relationship based approach in taking the team together has worked a lot. And of course, in your position, you may also have certain level of authority. You may want to insert certain level of authority depending on the situation, but more than that, relationship matters. Does it make sense?
Thank you so much for the info, Santhosh sir. Thank you so much. Yeah, perfect. Over to you, Pankaj sir.
Thank you so much, Uma. There was a glitch. So I believe we are almost reaching the time. So I would like to invite our summary leader, Mr. Senthil Kumar, to summarize the session. Senthil sir, welcome.
Thank you very much, Pankaj, and thank you, Santhosh. Actually, today's session was really a mesmerizing session, and it was not like straight from the gut; it is straight from your heart. Because three times you used the word justice. Justice to the question, justice to the question. It shows that you are conscious leadership, sir. Yeah, without taking much time, let me summarize the crux of today's session. So, leadership session here starts at the early days or early age. It was a charisma, which slowly evolved or transformed into a hard skills by being as part of the team and lead the team by being as an example. So, next resonating term in terms of the new leadership presence is be there in right place at right time, so that the team is confident by creating space in the front and backing the team at the back end. Third is today, team is being globalized with heterogeneous people from multiple background with hybrid mode of working. To add with on top of it, we have a generation gap. So in this situation, it is wise to be being a role model into the team by demonstrating the leadership presence by action, because action speaks louder than words. And lot of attributes and quality of leadership, like what we discussed, was be accessible, like open cabin workplace. And second is be transparent by interacting to build a lot of trust. And third is be candid in giving feedback. And fourth is demonstrate high level of integrity. And fifth is take the team forward by taking more ownership. Last but not least, leadership should stand with discipline. Apart from that, we also discussed about the intrinsic behavior, like inspiration, which something comes from the self. So last but not least, when it comes to the team presence, is unleash the purpose of the team by showing the big picture of the future, so that the team members take it more cautious and serious. And whenever we articulate in terms of context, setting the context to the team, always restrict I and try to emphasize more on we or more on you. And there was the three secrets about the three C's of a communication, which is clarity, clear, crisp context in communication. And next is we need to always give respect and take respect while demonstrating the leadership presence into the team. And the most important topic when it comes to the team member communication, or when team members grievances, addressing the team member grievances, is listening to them by allowing space for the other, for others to listen from heart. So this was one of the most touching point what you have mentioned. And next is you demonstrated this with a classic example, a live example of your previous experience, where you have been facing a painstaking situation of a cash crunch situation, which is something a beautiful rippling words. And you also spoke about the sinking ship with the safe and sound. How you built trust, even the ship is sinking, to make sure that the team members trust the captain and be with the captain even at the sinking ship. So this was a very beautiful real-time example that we could able to invite from about the leadership, power of the leadership. And next is leadership always be a lifelong learner in profession, because the day when he stops learning and sharing, he starts aging. So this was also one of the punching faces what we could able to get from you. And next, the most important thing is be in the flow by applying the learning, because not that you keep learning and keeping it with yourself, it also need to be measured when it comes to application of learning. Always be constant in touch with the team and take care of the team in place of new dynamics of the team, and try to upgrade the skills such the critical elements of the project are always kept in focus by using the Hansen Rover matrix of delegate delete model. Next is always when in case of a dynamic team situation, foresee the risk and communicate the mitigation plan at appropriate to appropriate situation at the appropriate time to the appropriate person. So these were some of the crux what I could able to have share here from your resonating session, sir.
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Senthil. I think I would not have been able to summarize it more better than you did. I really, really humbly appreciate that. Thank you.
Amazing comprehension.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
See, that's what Mr. Senthil Kumar is known for. That's the reason he's the summary leader.
Okay.
So people are talking about Chat GPT, but we talk about Mr. Senthil Kumar. Right. So thanks, Senthil sir, for summarizing it so beautifully, and you've been doing it for almost all the sessions for us, and that really helps for us to have the crux and the understanding of the entire session in simple words. So thank you so much. And even I feel when I look at the face of a leader who has spoken 35 minutes, and when he gets to know the summary, even they feel so happy and good about it. So I've been observing this with all the leaders. So that's what I want to share with you, Mr. Senthil. Thanks for doing it, and thanks for doing the justice to this role, sir. Thank you so much for doing it so beautifully. So thank you so much. So without taking much of time, I would like to invite Ms. Uma to give the vote of thanks, and then we'll have a formal thanking video for our guest and with the visitors, and then we'll have our networking meet, which Arul will take over. So Ms. Uma, you can have the vote of thanks, and then we'll have a thanking video. And Santhosh, thank you so much. We'll be keep in touch on LinkedIn. I will get in. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Pankaj sir. It was really a brainstorming as well as insightful session which we had today. My most important takeaway is like aging. That is one of the biggest takeaway for me today. And learning is a constant process, and we have to apply what we have learned. This is something which is not found in any management books. So it is one of the biggest takeaway for me. So before me share for the next week episode, let me quickly share again the purpose of the community. For the visitors who are attending for the first time, Leaders Connect 360 Degree is a hybrid model leadership community where every Wednesday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. we invite a top management leader from a reputed corporate companies to suggest some solutions for our real-time leadership challenges, like the experience we had today from us to get updated. It's simple to join our community. Do click on the below social media link, which is shown in the chat box. It gives immense pleasure to thank our guest, Mr. Santhosh, and panel discussion leader, Dr. Vasanthi, for spending your valuable time in sharing their experiences and insights. Thank you so much, Santhosh, sir. And guests and others in the house, kindly accept our gesture of thanking through a medium of thanking video. We request the new members and visitors to stay tuned till the end of the program, as we give an opportunity to introduce ourselves, which will help us network better. Thank you, Santhosh sir, once again, and thanks for your time for sharing your leadership. Over to you, Pankaj ji.
Thank you so much, Santhosh sir. Thank you so much for being there. So, Arul, can we have a formal thanking video, please? Thank you, Arun.